Okay, so we're on the back side of day 1 notes for Unit 10, and in number 3 it says find the value of k so that the line joining negative 3, 7 and 4k is horizontal. And if you remember in the warm-up, we were talking about horizontal lines, right? So we're going to remember the HOY, H-O-Y, H for horizontal, okay? And in the middle is a 0. And I know it's an O, but it actually stands for zero slope. And so what they're saying is that we know that the slope is 0, but we're missing this value of k to make the slope come out to be 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our slope formula and we're going to go ahead and say that our slope is 0, okay? And now we're going to go ahead and calculate our slope. So we're going to have 0 equals for our slope. And remember, y is to the sky. And I'm going to do 7 first for my y value minus my k. Okay, on the bottom, because I chose to have 7 go first, I have to have my x-coordinate of negative 3 go first, and then minus my 4. Okay, so what this is we're going to keep the 0 here, and we're going to clean up the right-hand side. 7 minus k can't be cleaned up, though, because we don't know what k is to subtract it from 7. But on the bottom, negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. And what we're going to do is we're going to make 0 into a fraction by putting it over 1, because 0 divided by 1 is still 0. Okay, so I didn't change anything, but what I did was make it a fraction equal to a fraction so that I can cross multiply. And 1 times 7 minus k is still just 7 minus k. Equal to 0 times negative 7. Well, multiplying anything by 0 turns it into 0. And now that I have that, I can add this k over, and I end up with 7 equals 0 plus k, which is k. And now I know that my k is 7. Okay? And hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's take a look at number 4. It says determine the equation of a line. Determine the equation of a line. So we have to write the entire equation of the line, which is y equals mx plus b, which means we need two things. We need the m and the b. Okay, so the cool thing about this one is that it tells us our slope is 1/2, and we have to realize that that's m. All right, so good news, we got one out of the two things we're looking for. And it has to pass through the point 4, negative 3. Okay, so basically we are just missing our y-intercept. And anytime that y-intercept is missing, all we have to do is replace the y, the m, and the x with numbers, and then we'll be able to solve for the only variable left, which is b, and then we'll have it. Okay? So what we have to realize is when they give us a point, they're secretly giving us not only an x value, but they're also giving us a y value. They're just in disguise. All right, so we're going to take this y out, and our y is going to get substituted in with a negative 3. We're going to keep our equal sign, and our slope, which is 1/2, is going to go in. That slope, though, is being multiplied by my x-coordinate, and my x-coordinate is 4, so I have to make sure that I multiply the m and the b, or I'm sorry, the m and the x together. Okay, and we don't know b, so we're going to leave it as our variable. All right, we're going to do a little multiplication here in the middle. 1/2 times 4, or half of 4, guys, is 2. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract the 2. And we end up with negative 5 equals b. And now we have our b, and we have our m. And now we can take the 2 and we can write our equation. So we would have y equals our m, which is 1/2. Your slope is always followed by the letter x. Okay, and then our b is a minus 5, or you could say plus a negative 5, either one. But there's the slope of our line. Okay, if we put this into our y equals, and we go to our table, this point 4, negative 3 should show up in our table. All right, hopefully that helps, and that is one way to write the equation of a line. Now, they could make it a little bit tougher, where they don't give you one out of the two parts. They don't give you the slope or the y-intercept in number 5. Okay, but they do tell you 2 points that it passes through. So again, we have to come up with the equation of a line, which is y equals mx plus b. And in the equation of the line, we have to replace the m and the b in order to get the exact equation of this line. Okay. In this one, they don't tell us the slope, but they tell us 2 points, and we know the slope formula. So we're going to go ahead and use our slope formula. So we're going to say m equals y is to the sky. So I'm going to choose to put the y of 3 first, and then minus my other y, which is negative 1. Because I chose that order on the top, I chose this y to go first. I have to have that x go first. So I'm going to have negative 1 on the bottom minus positive 1. Okay, we're going to go ahead and clean this up. On top, 3 minus a negative 1 is the same thing as saying 3 plus 1, which is 4. On the bottom, we have negative 1 minus 1, which is negative 2. Okay, and 4 divided by negative 2 is a slope of negative 2. We'll give that a little circle. We are halfway there. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to take and we're going to find the b, and we have to remember in order to find that b, y, m, and x have to get replaced. Cool thing is we actually have two sets of y's and x's because we have 2 points. So it's up to you which one you want to use. It does not matter. Okay. But whatever y you use, you have to use the x from the same point. Okay. So if you choose to use x from this point, you also have to use the y from that point. If you want to use the other point, then you would use the x and the y from that point. Okay. I'm going to use c though for my y and x. So I'm going to remember that -1 is my x and that 3 is my y. Okay. So when the y comes out, the 3 is going to go in. My slope I just found is -2. And then I'm going to multiply it by my x, which is -1. And then I'm going to leave this as plus b. Okay, I'm going to do a little multiplication in the middle. -2 times -1 is +2. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2 so that I get b by itself. And that b value is going to equal to 1. I'm going to give that a little circle. I have my 2 pieces now, and now I can finally write the equation of my line, which is y equals my slope, which is -2, followed by the x, and then plus my y-intercept, which is 1. And there is the equation of my line. And the cool thing is I can put this into y equals in my calculator. I can go to my table and make sure both points are in my table. Therefore, that line does pass through both C and K. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead, guys, and take a look at number 6. And they're asking which of the following is the equation of a line parallel to the y-axis that passes through the point -1, 6. So the direction of your line is parallel to the y-axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a little scrap graph and think about the y-axis, okay, which is the one that goes up and down. And if you want to be parallel to the y-axis, think about what direction you have to go in, okay? And they also want you to pass through the point -1, 6, so like over here. Okay, and if I'm going to be parallel to the y-axis and pass through that point, hopefully you guys understand that my equation of my line is going to look something like that, which is vertical. That red line's vertical, so think VUX. The equation of every vertical line is x equals a number. And as soon as you know that, get rid of choice 3 and 4. Those are horizontal lines. They're y equals a number, which is HOI. So just because I know the direction of my line that goes up and down, which is vertical, I can already narrow it down to a 50-50. And by knowing the fact that it's x equals a number, all I have to do is go to the x coordinate, which is -1, and steal it and go x equals -1. And there it is, choice 2. Okay, number 7. It says that the point -5, -2 lies on the graph of which equation? And so what we have to realize is that when a point lies on a graph, okay, that the first coordinate of that point is our x, and that the second coordinate of our point is our y, and that when we plug that x number and that y number into our equation, if the left side equals the right side, that's what we call it working, okay, it makes the equation true, then that point lies on that line. So we have quite a bit of substitution right now to do, but that's not terrible. All right, so we're going to take number 1, and I'm going to pull it down here. And I'm going to keep the 3, but the x is going to get replaced with -5 from the point that's in question. Okay, keep the -2 and replace the y with the -2 that's in question and see if it comes out to equal 4. All right, this gives me a -15, and right here, this gives me a +4, or you can type it right into your calculator, and we're going to see if that equals 4, but I think you guys can see that it doesn't. -15 plus 4 is -11, and -11 does not equal 4, which means that this point does not lie on that line. Okay, so now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and take choice 2 over here and do the same thing. I'm going to keep the -2, but the x gets replaced with the -5. And then my plus my y, which is -2, and then we're going to see if this equals 12. All right, -2 times -5, that's actually +10. Plus a -2 is really the same thing as saying -2. Okay, or you can type it in your calculator, but you're going to see you get 8 not equal to 12. And so this point does not lie on that line either. So now I'm going to take my third line and replace the x with -5. Keep the -3 and multiply my y by -2 and see if this comes out to equal 1. And so this is -5. Right here, a -3 times a -2 is a +6. And -5 plus 6 is 1, and 1 does equal 1. And so I think we found it. Choice 3 is the only equation so far that -5, -2 works into. We can try that last line just to ensure that our answer is correct. If we replace the y in that line, we get -2 equals -5 minus 3. And -5 minus 3 is -8, and that's not equal to -2. And so it does not work in number 4. Okay, so hopefully that's a good review about equations of lines back from algebra, and we'll continue to use them throughout the unit. All right, guys, I will see you on the next day of notes.